Good evening, and welcome to the Park Hills-Leadington Chamber of Commerce Meet the Mayoral Candidate event. Whether you decided to be with us in person or online, we're so glad that you made the decision to participate in the process of learning about the candidates so you can make the choice that best fits your values and your conscience. My name is Ursula Warren. I am the current president of the Park Hills-Leadington Chamber of Commerce. And I want to take a second of our time to recognize some of the folks who made this event happen. First and foremost, Tammy Coleman, our executive director. We all know that as a board, we get all the credit, and she does all the work, so thank you for doing this. Our chamber board works under Tammy's expert guidance every day, and we're so thankful for her. We're also grateful for each of the board members whose commitment to our community and our chamber is extraordinary. A special thank you tonight, too, to Heather Garner. She is with SEED, Southeast Economic Development Fund, and she is the chairman of our legislative committee. She and her committee were instrumental in putting this together in very short order, and we're very grateful for their efforts. Thank you. At this time, I would like to ask Pastor Joshua Kennan, the pastor of First Free Will Baptist Church, he's also one of our chamber ambassadors, to come up and lead us in the invocation.
If you would, please bow with me and pray. Our Father and our God, you have said, blessed are those whose God is the Lord. And so we acknowledge this evening that you are God, that you are our Lord. We recognize you this evening as our foundation, and we acknowledge that without you as our foundation, our buildings would begin to collapse. And so, Father, please forgive us for living selfishly, for turning to our own wisdom instead of relying on your wisdom. And so, Father, right now I pray for these mayoral candidates that you would give wisdom and integrity and courage during this platform. And Father, please give the voters of this city wisdom to choose rightly and justly, that we may be a city that follows the right and just path, your path. And so I pray not only for our next mayor, but Father, for all of those in leadership in this city, in this county, in our state, and in our nation. May you grant them wisdom and woo their hearts to follow your path of righteousness. I pray this in the name of our precious Savior, who died for our sins, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Kennan. I would ask everyone at this time to please rise, and we will join me in the Pledge of the Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. I read a quote the other day that I'd never heard before, and it's attributed to Abraham Lincoln. I thought it expressed a very frank perspective on voting, so I thought I would share it with you today. I heard it on the internet, so it must be true, right? According to everydaypower.com, President Lincoln once said, elections belong to the people. It's their decision. If they decide to turn their back on the fire and burn their behinds, then they will just have to sit on their blisters. So I'm delighted that all of you have made time in your day to face the fire, get informed, and maybe you won't have to sit on your blisters. To our 4 mayoral candidates, we greatly appreciate your time and participation in our event. We look forward to learning more about you, who you are, and what you stand for. Our MC for tonight is Dr. Joe Gilgore. Dr. Gilgore is the president of Mineral Area College and a member of the board of directors of the Park Hills-Leadington Chamber of Commerce. Dr. Gilgore has taken a very active role in our community since his arrival, and we are delighted to have him here to host this evening's event. Please help me make him welcome, Dr. Gilgore.
Thank you, Ursula. All right, so we got a few rules we need to go over before we get started. I would ask everyone in the audience to please silence your phones, and candidates, I guess silence your phones too. We'd ask that throughout the course of the forum that the audience refrains from comments or applause until the end. There will be time afterwards. The candidates will be around for conversations with people if you're into that. And every candidate has a 2-minute introduction. They will have 2 minutes to answer each question. We'll rotate who starts each question, and then there's a 2-minute closing statement. At 30 seconds remaining in your time, Heather will hold up this red piece of paper, alerting you have 30 seconds left. And then at the end of your 2 minutes, a very annoying sound will play on Heather's phone. So let's get started. First up, Gene Frischi with your introduction.
Are we good? Well, first thing is welcome everybody and thank you for coming. I'm not new to the area. I've been here since 1978. I grew up in Bonne Terre and I graduated class of 1975. I have attended Mineral Area College, the trade school, both day classes and night classes. I've raised 5 children here in the district as well as 7 foreign exchange students. I am a landlord and I hope that's covered later on in these questions. In the last 4 years, town has really made some changes, been really good. I've bought 4 buildings for my personal use. I've helped start 2 businesses and I've helped 2 other businesses expand, as well as the Howlett Golf Station. We recently received the State Historic Site on that, and we're very proud of that. And all of these things have been done out of my own pocket for the benefit of us and our city. I do believe in God. I do believe in the Second Amendment. I believe in choice, and I'm thankful we have 4 people running, not 1 or 2. And I want everyone to get to know all of us, that we don't have voter remorse. That's probably about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Gene. Next up is John Clark.
Well, thank you very much. I apologize, first of all, that I can't be with you all this evening. This was something we had planned for quite some time, and then the date was set, so we couldn't get around that. But anyway, I'm glad to be here, and I want to thank Tammy Coleman and everybody else, all the technology people involved, for putting this together and letting me attend via the Zoom meeting here. So get that out of the way right off the bat. I feel like that, first of all, I was born and raised in Flat River, one of the towns that consolidated back in 1994. I was actually the president or chairman of the Mineral Area Consolidation Committee when the towns went together back at that time. I've served in several positions on the city council for 3 terms, mayor for 2 terms plus 1 year, and then also on the IDA and now I currently serve as on the St. Francis County Special Road District number 2 as chairman of that committee or that board. So I feel like I have the experience that's necessary to lead the community. I do know that during the consolidation time, we had several things and goals and objectives that we wanted to perform, and we wanted the community to pull together to make the improvements necessary. I don't necessarily know that we've kind of gotten off track in some ways, but yet we've got a lot of good things going as well. So I think my overall goal would be to lead the community and just try to be the best mayor as I possibly could be.
Thank you, John. Next up, Larry Lachance.
Hi, I'm Larry Lachance. Been in the city most of my life. I went to Central High School, graduated in '81. Went out to Mac for about a year before I decided that college probably wasn't the best choice for me. And then I went on to the military. I spent 24 years in the Air Force, traveled around the world. And then when it was all done, I came back here. But I came back with more people than I left with. I brought back a wife and 3 daughters. They since have all, my daughters have all moved on and they live in other parts of the U.S. right now. I've been on the city council for 6 years. I've also been on the planning and zoning committee, the senior advisory board, and we've made quite a few benefits there going on. I chose to run for mayor because I thought that there should be, we should get back to taking care of our infrastructure. I know we've got away from it for a little while. Get back on our streets, our sidewalks, water systems, and our sewer systems that are aging and starting to show it now. Not really sure what else I need to say right now. But I'm happy to be here, and I'm thankful for everybody who started this up for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Now, David Easter.
Good evening. Some of you may already know that I was mayor of Park Hills for 8 years. I was councilman also for a total of 8 years. I was born in St. Louis. I graduated from Farmington, Missouri. However, I did my student teaching over at Central. I came to live back in the day in Flat River in 1985, and I've been living in Park Hills for the past 39 years. One of the things that I want to remind people is that not only was I mayor and councilman, I was also president of the Downtown Park Hills Association for approximately 14 years. And I went, and with the help of the membership of that association, we established Trunk or Treat, which is one of the top 5 events in the downtown area. I taught for 17 years, and then I decided to open up my shop, Not Just Comics, back in 1992. I have been almost at the same location until the Hulsey Properties wanted to renovate the building, and I'm thankful they did. It's a lot better than what it was. And I've had that store about 30 years coming this November. I also want to say that some of the committee work when I was a councilman, I think I was on every committee possible. I did write this down because I knew I'd forget it. Annexation Committee, the Community Development Committee, the Safety Committee, Library Committee, Utilities Committee, Administration Personnel Committee, and probably leaving off even off that list, a couple more committees when I first came in as councilman. I think my record speaks for itself. I'm proud of my record, and I want to thank everybody for showing up tonight, and hopefully we'll learn more about each other as the hour progresses. Thank you.
Prior to starting tonight, each candidate drew a number, and that's how we assigned seats. So our first question, Gene Fritchie will start with the answer. First question is, please describe your involvement with the City of Park Hills, either from serving or volunteering.
Well, currently I am on the Downtown Park Hills Association committee. I've done a lot of things for the city as far as trying to better what we have in town. I always put them first. You know, I've already lost track of the question. Sorry, would you just repeat it?
Please describe your involvement with the City of Park Hills, either from serving or volunteering.
Okay, most everything I do is all volunteer. I'm not an employee of the city. My main goal is to better the city through whatever I can do personally. I don't expect anyone else to assist me. I'm not asking for help from anyone. I'm doing it on my own because I care about the city. That's my goal. That's my reason for running, is I want to bring a different light, a different direction. The problems that the city has, we've had them for many years. Somehow addressing them the way they're being addressed is not working. We've got 5 questions. All of these, I assume, pertain to the problems within the city and how we would address them. I just want to bring a new direction, a new spark, and whatever I can do to make a difference.
Thank you. John Clark, please describe your involvement with the City of Park Hills, either from serving or volunteering.
Okay, I've kind of covered some of that, I think, with the opening statement, but I was chairman of the Mineral Area Consolidation Committee. Then I served 2 terms on the city council early on, and then a 3rd one here recently. I was a member of the IDA board. I've served 2 terms plus 1 year as mayor. Then currently I'm on the St. Francis County Special Road District, which is a road district inside the city limits of Park Hills that serves its citizens. Just other things along the way included with that, you know, just other little things that would come up at time to time to volunteer for. I've always tried to take part.
Okay, thank you. Now, Larry Lachance, please describe your involvement with the City of Park Hills, either from serving or volunteering.
All right. I have been on the city council for 6 years. While I was on there, I have served on the senior advisory board. This is the senior center where the apartments are located at. Helped with that for the past, I want to say 3 years. Planning and zoning, I've been on and off of that several times. I own a business here in the city. I actually own two, Lachance Cooling and Lachance Properties. Trying to think of anything else I got on here. Been the mayor pro tem for the last 2 years. Just whatever I can do to help with the city, I've been trying to do. I believe that's just about all I got right.
Thank you. David Easter, please describe your involvement with the city of Park Hills, either from serving or volunteering.
Well, I've already answered some of that, but to add more to it, as president of the Downtown Park Hills Association, I mentioned Trunk or Treat, which has brought in anywhere between, depending on the weather, 1,000 to 2,000 people, depending on the year. Another thing that I was very proud of, the association with the Polig family put on the Celtic Festival. That's unfortunately we don't have right now, but I would like to see it return. As an association, we also did various forms of Old Time Christmas. There was one where we had various businesses to participate in various projects for children. We usually had a Santa Claus come down here. We sometimes would have the buggy ride, you might recall those, and various other projects that occurred with Old Time Christmas. Don't want to forget the businesses that usually on an annual basis, they would volunteer to put a little box in their store and people would write their names, address, and phone numbers so that we could have a turkey drawing, which at the time was supplied by Country Mart. And the association itself reflects upon our community, our involvement and our concern for doing events to get them into downtown, especially during a time period when it looked like we had very few businesses here and there in the downtown area. But due to encouragement, safe environment, people looking at the opportunities that have occurred in Park Hills in the past 10 years, 15 years, it has really grown in the downtown area. And I'm glad I was a part of that. As for my store, once a year, except for COVID, we would have an event called Free Comic Book Day that brings in hundreds of people from various locations.
Thank you, Mr. Easter.
Another thing I'd like to conclude with would be disc golf. Is that the funny sound?
That's the funny sound.
Oh, I
yeah.
didn't know that was a funny sound. That's not a bad sound. I'll get to disc golf. Okay, I'll get to disc golf at another time. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question, John Clark will start. There are many properties in Park Hills that are unoccupied and have become dilapidated. What's more important to you right now? Building new homes and commercial space, or rehabbing or expanding existing properties?
I think that we do have a problem with that. And one of the issues that I have said that we have an issue with is that, 50% of, according to the most recent census, 50% of our homeowners or homes are not owner occupied. I think that's key for our city or any community to perform well. You need to have a higher homeowner occupancy rate. I would like to see us have set a goal for every single family home or every home on derelict property that we remove or have removed or the homeowner removes it, that we work with a developer or with the builders or different ones around the community that may be interested to build a brand new single family home on that property, one that a young family or any family can buy and purchase as their home. I'm not against rental property, but I think we have to have a balance. We cannot just be overloaded with rental property and have over a 50% rate of that. I believe that, we've got some real prospects and we've seen some of that in the past. We've seen some homes that where we've torn down places and brand new single family homes were built there. And I think it's a good thing. And we need to continue that and move that forward. I do know when I was mayor previously, we were able to receive community development block grants, ones that necessarily didn't require a dollar amount to to get the matching funds, that we could do it in kind work. So maybe our crews could do part of the demolition of the property to get rid of it and then build a new home there. So I think that's critical, and I think that's something I would definitely work on if I'm elected.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Mr. Lachance, there are many properties in Park Hills that are unoccupied and have become dilapidated. What's more important to you right now, building new homes and commercial space, or rehabbing or expanding existing properties?
Oh, this is a problem that's been going on for many years. We have houses that are just completely falling down. We need to get rid of those houses, and the problem I see is that I don't think we actually talk face to face with the property owners. I think we need to meet with the property owners, talk with them, and see if there's a way that we can come up with a solution to get those buildings down. A vacant lot is a lot better looking than a broken down house. These broken down houses take down the value of the properties next door to them. They become, as you would say, dens of illegal activity going on in them. So if we can work with the homeowners that own these properties, I know that most of them don't even live in the city themselves. We have people who live in St. Louis that own properties down here that may never even saw them. So if it involves me driving all the way to St. Louis to meet with these people to try to come up with a solution, and I think that's what we need to do. For the last couple of years, we ran a program where if we could finally get the homeowners to sign a piece of paper saying that they were willing to take the homes down, we, the city, went in there and knocked them down. All they had to do is pay for the trash haul off on it, and we just added that to their tax, or they paid us for it. It did get down several houses. I think we need to continue that. If all else fails, then we need to start the legal stuff. But we need a set of plans that actually work. I would like to get them down. I would like to get developers to have the houses that they can build and build affordable housing. We need houses that people can afford and not a fancy house that is beyond what they can afford. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Easter, there are many properties in Park Hills that are unoccupied and have become dilapidated. What's more important to you right now, building new homes and commercial space, or rehabbing or expanding existing properties?
I can't see why we can't do a combination of both, to be honest with you. The problem with for the city to go in and do demolition on certain buildings or property owners' structure is that it does cost the city more money. And as mayor, we did go in and do a few ourselves, but it did cost. And we worked with certain property owners to try to get them to build up their properties, and some did, some didn't, and some, as you may recall, there was a building next door to mine that got burnt, and it took approximately 2 or more years for that owner to go in, who had bought the building but decided not to renovate it, to tear it down. And some of this structures that we have, I'm not happy with them. Don't get me wrong. I'm very happy that Halsey Brothers have come in and has shown certain property owners what can be done and what can occur if they would just spend some money on their buildings and renovate them themselves. As for the housing, I have to lean a bit towards that new housing, because as you slowly get more people into Park Hills, the better that you can build up the businesses, the taxes, the personal property taxes, and things of that nature. So the one fact, and I'll conclude with this, is that on the average during the years I was mayor, we had a 1.5% annual increase in the population. And I'm looking forward for the census to get done to see how we are now.
Thank you. Mr. Fritchie, there are many properties in Park Hills that are unoccupied and have become dilapidated. What's more important to you right now, building new homes and commercial space, or rehabbing or expanding existing properties?
I'm glad to hear that question. I've been a landlord for 35 years, and not one city official has come to me and asked me, how can we help you? I think the number's closer to 60% of the people rent in Park Hills. And the people who put limits on landlords, make it more difficult for us to keep our houses up. They don't realize that 60% rent, what happens if the landlord leaves that house empty for 6 months because he can't find a good renter or because they've torn it up? Two things happen. Number one, we lose population, we lose students, we lose customers for the water service, we lose customers for taxes. County Mart, Harps loses business, everybody loses, but nobody understands the plight of the landlord. We do need to get the houses cleaned up. It's not the city's responsibility, it's the landlord's responsibility. Through different things, rather than in grants and things like that, let's do something about the houses themselves. As far as, let's start with the FEMA lots. We have to maintain them, they bring us no money. Let's figure out a way to get them back on the rolls where we can get houses put back on them. Let's build from the inside out. We've got lots, we've got plenty of places for new homes. Let's get them on there. The houses that are right now dilapidated, whatever, that really need to be torn down, let's do a different program where maybe we tax them as the same rate as a new house and have the landlord, now it's unprofitable to leave it sit empty. Through taxes, we can actually foreclose on them, sell the lots, raffle them, whatever, and get something going to get these properties back up. But where the expense really lays, it's not the city's responsibilities, it's ours as the landlord. Help us do our job.
Thank you. Next question, Mr. Lachance will start. What do you believe to be the top 3 most pressing concerns to the business community, and how do you plan to address them?
You said to the business community?
Yes, sir.
Well, one is we need more businesses to begin with. And as far as the housing goes, I mean, if we increase the housing here, the businesses will actually start making more money. A lot of the businesses here in the area are in rented property. We need to work with those people to get them in those places. Every time we see an empty building, we need to start working with the landlords of those buildings and see if we can't help them get somebody into them. Businesses need to be coming into the city, and the only way to do that is we're going to have to entice them somehow to do that. If it means, I've seen other cities do it before, businesses rely on water, we just give them free water for a year. I know it costs us money that way, but it gets that business in there, and it gets people coming to town. If we've got businesses coming into town, people coming into town for our businesses, they not only shop at that one place, but they shop at other places. But I think we need to start working with the businesses and try to get them in to see what they need. There are, in the downtown district, there are TIF funds to help them out. I don't think we've had maybe one business that's ever taken it. think we need to talk to them and try to see what we can do about it. Talk to the owners of those buildings to get more businesses in here. But we got to start working with the people themselves. And that's face to face and not call them on a telephone to try to see what we can do for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Easter, what do you believe to be the top 3 most pressing concerns to the business community, and how do you plan to address them?
I would say, for one, businesses breed businesses. In other words, the more businesses you get, competition comes in, it helps to establish the environment of the whole city. So once you start that, you'll have more customers coming into the city, which enhances each individual business one way or the other. I would recommend entrepreneurs, which, by the way, makes up about 80% of the business district, to utilize the tools that we already have. As you know, Mineral Area College has certain business instructors that they can go to for advice and get knowledge on how to open up a business, how to make a business plan, and various other instructions. We have an excellent C staff that was established during my tenure as mayor for businesses to come in to get assistance from the association, which is located where the at the depot. And also there are area bankers who can help businesses to start up and for those who are continuing to do business here in Park Hills. Various other things that I look at, I was going to mention activities, and I see the red card. Various activities to bring in businesses. It's a complicated question, which 2 minutes will not allow me to get on to second and third points, but I'll try to bring some of that discussion in next question or at the closing.
Thank you. Mr. Fritchie, what do you believe to be the top 3 most pressing concerns to the business community, and how do you plan to address them?
The biggest problem we have is we keep diverting traffic out of Park Hills. When we put the park entrance in out on the highway, they don't come into Park Hills. They see Farmington just as clear and easy to access. All the major food chains, they're all there. We keep shooting ourselves in the foot. Whenever we put in the other crossover going over to the mine building, that wasn't an access to the park. That was an access to the highway that diverts more traffic out of the downtown business district. If you notice, the renovations and the spike in businesses has been between the railroad tracks and the new Casey's. The traffic has to go through there off 8 Highway. If you look at the other end of town, it's dying. There's nothing going on because we diverted traffic. Location, location, location. We have to improve the traffic flow. We own the park entrance. It's ours, no matter what we do. I watched Bonne Terre die. Whenever they put in the new plaza up there, the businesses flocked out of town. They all moved up there. 45 years later, the business district is a disaster. We've got to figure out how to keep our businesses uptown. No matter what we do through incentives, something to keep the businesses alive in town. Halsey's are doing a lot. There's more businesses starting. The businesses are coming back because of the current policies enacted by this administration now. There was relaxing rules and giving the landlords and the business owners an opportunity to expand and grow. The burdensome rules that have been imposed in the past have got to stop. You've got to help the landlords. Without them, this town is screwed. We don't have any growth or available growth. All the buildings in town now have been either purchased or changed hands with people who want to do something with town. There's a fight to bring town back. I don't know how many people see it, but they really need to be a part of it. Just look and see what's going on uptown.
Thank you. Mr. Clark, what do you believe to be the top 3 most pressing concerns to the business community, and how do you plan to address them?
Well, I think one thing, first of all, I think if I'm correct on this, Park Hills probably has the highest sales tax rate of anybody else in the county. And I think that could be a detriment to some of our businesses. It makes it, when I'm selling the same product as somebody else, you come to Park Hills and buy it, you're going to pay more because the sales tax rate's higher than you could get it maybe in another community, one of our neighboring towns possibly. So I think that's a problem. I think Gene's right. Traffic counts. I've always heard that. They look at traffic counts. They want to make sure that they've got a good volume of cars that pass their business every day. Years ago, and one of the reasons that we pushed so hard to get interchanges at Parkway Drive and interchange at the fairgrounds was because everybody said, you've got to get on the highway. You've got to get out on the highway. That's where it's at. Well, that hasn't necessarily proved to be. We've had some success with that, but then not so much. I agree also that the downtown area, of course, in Park Hills, that's kind of our main commercial area, our main street. I don't just limit to downtown, but the entire Main Street area. So I think that is correct, that we need to continue to try to push vehicles, get traffic back in those areas, and not necessarily try to bypass our community. Some of the bypasses that took place were not necessarily they were not Park Hills pushed, necessarily. Highway 32, for example, that was not something that Park Hills pushed for to get that to run around town. So I think the sales tax. A third one, I don't know, but I think one thing that I would definitely do if I'm elected would be to meet with business owners and to ask them what the city could do and what we can do to help them and work with them and partner with them to get the things done that would make their business prosper.
Thank you. Next question, Mr. Easter will start. Businesses big and small, new and old, are all essential for cities to operate. As mayor, what role would you play in recruiting new and keeping existing businesses here? As a follow-up, would you take this on yourself or delegate this responsibility?
Okay. I have done that. I have done, as mayor and as president of the Downtown Park Hills Association, encourage businesses to come in as well as see that the town grew in businesses. That was my main mission goal in being president of the Downtown Park Hills Association and as councilman and as mayor. The way to do it, and we had several people working for us to try to recruit more businesses in, but you cannot undertake this by yourself. I don't believe anybody can do it by themselves, and it's a mistake to do so. What you need to do is work with the council, because you've got 8 elected officials who have different knowledge than what you might bring to the table. And you need to listen to them and learn from them. You can also talk to others, successful people who may be interested in coming in, but have renovations for whatever reason. Now, I will address the sales tax real quick. The council or the mayor or anybody else that has been elected in the city, we can put sales tax on the ballot to vote for it. But it's the people who voted for the sales tax for whatever reason. We didn't just wave a wand and say, we're going to raise sales tax this year by 1%. It's the people that voted for it. So if we have the highest sales tax in the county, you have to remember that there were enough people to vote for that as well. I see my time is up.
Thank you. Mr. Fritchie, businesses big and small, old and new, are all essential for cities to operate. As mayor, what role would you play in recruiting new and keeping existing businesses here? As a follow-up, would you take this on yourself or delegate this responsibility?
Let's start with the follow-up. I think it's important that the mayor do all he can to help bring businesses into town, whether it be me, be the mayor or the council. We all need to work together, put our heads together, and do whatever we can to make businesses want to locate here, whether it be lower taxes, incentives, it doesn't matter. We all need to work together. Would you repeat the first part of the question?
As mayor, what role would you play in recruiting new and keeping existing businesses here?
I think that would be a very interesting spark to it. I've already done that. I purchased one building in the middle of town. Within a month, I had a renter in there with a new business opening up. I purchased a second building. Within a month, I had a business expand. I purchased a third building, and I also had another business expand. So it's important that all of us do our part, no matter what it is. But the main thing is the city needs to be more understanding, is not really a good word, but cooperative with the people and understand the plight of the people who are putting their whole livelihoods, their savings, everything at stake to try and make a living, to try and do better and bring everything back. We either all sink or we all swim. Regardless, we're all in this together.
Thank you. Mr. Clark, businesses big and small, new and old, are all essential for cities to operate. As mayor, what role would you play in recruiting new and keeping existing businesses here? As a follow-up, would you take this on yourself or delegate this responsibility?
Well, I think one of the things the mayor is, and kind of maybe a simple term, but you're kind of the cheerleader for the town. You're kind of the spokesperson for the town. And I think you have to be out front and you have to be available and accessible to businesses and business leaders when they have problems or they have issues. And I think you have to work hard to maintain those relationships and, to get the dialogue started or whatever their needs are to work with them. And I think I would be very willing to do that sort of thing. To pinpoint an exact way I would do that, I'm not sure. But I know one thing, I would have dialogue with the business leaders to try to get them involved and to maintain the ones that we have and to expand that. In addition to that, I think we have to have, one of the biggest issues I feel like that we have is just the appearance of our community in many ways. Now, it's not all bad. I don't want to say that, but we've got a lot of areas that look tired, to be honest. And I think we need to make improvements in those areas, the best that we can to clean things up and to make it more attractive for businesses to want to locate here and to just improve the overall appearance of our community. I think will go a long way into setting an example and making the appearance that we are successful. You know, it's just look at a person you see walking down the street. I mean, somebody that you kind of formulate opinions about them just by their appearance. I mean, that's sad to say, but I think that goes with the town as well. And so I think those are things that I would work on.
Thank you. Mr. Lachance, businesses big and small, new and old, are all essential for cities to operate. As mayor, what role would you play in recruiting new and keeping existing businesses here? As a follow-up, would you take this on yourself or delegate this responsibility?
Well, as everybody's already said, the key is communications. The people we have right now opening businesses, we need to work with them. We need to take some of the restrictions out of the areas. I know sometimes we get restrictions in areas that says they can't have a sidewalk sale. Let's relook at that stuff. The tax rate, I think, is really a problem, and I know that it's not something that the council or the mayor has done, but it's the people that's voted for it. And I know we got some of them right now that are coming up to, they'll either expire or we'll have to renew them, and I think we need to let a couple of them expire and get those tax rates down. As has been said by another one, if you can buy it cheaper in another town, you'll probably go there, even though you're only going to save a couple of dollars. You might look that way. The appearance in our downtown district does need to be good, but the one thing we got to remember is the city does not own the buildings. So we have to work with the owners of those buildings to try to get them looking like they do. Maybe there are grants for them out there that can help them out. That seems to be always a big issue, is money. I don't have the money to do this. Well, let's find them avenues to get that in there. As far as new businesses go, we're going to have to let some big businesses come into the area. I mean, years ago, if you didn't want a fast food restaurant in your area, you just didn't put it in there because you didn't want to hurt the little guy. The problem is that nowadays, I know a lot of people will just drive all the way up to Festus. They see something they want to eat, and they're going to go there. Maybe we need to get some of that stuff down here and to work with these people. But we have to bring in all types of businesses and try to work with them people. And that's it.
Thank you. Our final question will be started by Mr. Fritchie. If you received a $1 million grant to use for the city any way you wanted, what would you do with it and why?
I think the biggest problem with a lot of cities is debt and the debt reduction. I understand that we have CDs that come due paying little or nothing, but yet we have debt out there at a higher interest rate. It makes no sense. I'm not a deficit spender. I believe in paying the bills on time when they're due, living within a budget. I think paying off would probably be the best thing, in my opinion, for the city. Squirreling some away and having a reserve fund is important, but there's no pet project out there that would take precedence over the overall security of the system, of the city financially. I think city stability is very important. I think taking care of the police departments, all the city workers is important. People should be proud to work for the city. They ought to be rewarded for putting out their time, the extra things that they do. And the people, the city, I don't think the city employees get the credit that they really deserve, and it's not reflected in their pay sometimes. They put out a lot, and we need to find a way to better their, better their lives and say thank you. The police departments, they need to be safe. That ought to be the first thing, to make sure every police officer comes home every night. Give them the training they need, give them the tools they need to do their job. And I think that's one of the most important things, is we all need our tools to do our job, If we expect us to do it right, give us what we need to work with, and don't tie our hands.
Thank you. Mr. Clark, if you received a $1 million grant to use for the city any way you wanted, what would you do with it and why?
Well, I guess the first question I'd want, do I have to pay it back? If I have to pay it back, then that changes the story. I'd have to say infrastructure. I think our infrastructure in a lot of areas is failing and it's crumbling and absolutely falling apart. I mean, just drive around. It doesn't take much to see it, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And I think that was one thing that we had when I was mayor previously, is that we generated about $400,000 a year that we dedicated towards streets, and we did that for about 7 years, and we made some real improvements. $1 million is not a lot of money when you start talking about things of that nature. You know that from being at the college and how far $1 million goes when you get into building projects. But I would definitely say I would have to use it towards infrastructure some way. To try to get some things in some really bad key areas that need to be repaired and need to be replaced is probably what I would do.
Thank you. Mr. Lachance, if you received a $1 million grant to use for the city any way that you wanted, what would you do with it and why?
Well, as Mr. Clark said, $1 million is really not a lot. We could buy one item and that $1 million would be gone. But we probably should look at, we have several loans right now. We should probably look at the interest rate on those loans and see if we can pay those off. I'm any way of trying to find out a way to get rid of paying interest on something. And we have a couple of those loans that are due to expire here really soon, and that would free up money for other things, such as infrastructure. We need a new pool right now. We've got probably one of the oldest pools in the area, and amazingly enough, just a little under $1 million is what it costs to replace it. So $1 million doesn't really go that far. But it would help out a lot in the city to get us in areas that we need to be, maybe drop some debt, maybe end a tax, one of those tax things we have out there that's got us up high. We have a fire truck that's due to be paid off here soon. I don't know if paying it off early would help us out, but it could get us back down, lower some tax rates and everything, and get us back to going like we should be going. But we do need to take a look at the budgets and start trying to figure out, is there ways of cutting things? Paying something off early, is it going to save us money in the long run and get us where we need to be? But $1 million is not really a lot, even though it sounds like a lot. If I had $1 million, I would think it's a lot of money. But a city of our size, $1 million is about 1 month's worth of use. And that's all I got.
Thank you. Mr. Easter, if you received a $1 million grant to use for the city any way you wanted, what would you do with it and why?
I would say one of the things I forgot to say earlier was, and it's not that expensive, but it does help the city out, we need another Norm Lucas. He was an economic developer and really helped this city out. He developed approximately $2 million in grants just under the Clark administration and my administration. And you will not believe how much that man has helped this city. So we do need to look at an economic developer down the line. I've always been concerned about safety. I think we should support the fire department, the police department, and the water and wastewater department. We have to keep our citizens safe. We are lacking in police officers. We're below the average of the number of police officers we need. Wastewater, things break out there. When they break, they get expensive. And we need to look at renewing that. If we had $1 million grant to spend on whatever we want. We also have to look at the fire department itself. When I was mayor, we brought in various equipments. The people in town voted to have a fire department tax, sales tax. So this is the type of stuff that we have to look at and focus on. If you make it safe environment, more businesses will come in, or a safer environment. If you have decent water, decent wastewater management, you're going to have more people wanting to come in and stay in. And the same is true for all of the other things concerning about safety. Thank you.
Thank you. And now for the closing statements, we will go in reverse order. Sorry, Gene, pass the mic back down. Starting with Mr. Easter. You have 2 minutes, sir.
Okay. There are problems facing us that requires experience and leadership to brave the challenges that are going to be before us. There are problems, and they can be solved. They can be solved with time, growth in both businesses, and growth in the population. We, as citizens, have to realize that the next 4 years, whoever becomes mayor, we're going to have to take a hard look at a conservative budget, bite the bullet, and carry on. We are going to get out of this mess. But it's going to take a little bit of time. It's not going to happen immediately after the first year because you go with the previous budget throughout the year. There can be modifications and changes. But we have to look at getting those CDs back. I would recommend setting aside $25,000, or if we can afford it, depending on the fiscal budget, $50,000 to go back into the CDs that were cashed in. We've got to rebuild the reserves like I did as mayor. We had 5.5 to 7.5 times the recommended state average, which was 2.5 months worth of reserves. In conclusion, I want to thank everybody tonight for showing up and the people involved with this. And basically, I just want to say I hope everybody have a happy Easter. Take care.
Mr. Lachance, you have 2 minutes.
Well, we've talked about a lot of stuff. We've talked about the budgets. I would say right now that this year is the first year in a long time that the budget is balanced out. We're not in the red anymore. We got in the black. It took a lot of rough spending. We did not rehire several employees that left us in order to save that money, but we finally made it there, and we're there now. As far as the CDs goes, we used the money in a bad time we were at the time, we used that money. Past meeting we just had, we set up which I believe on the next meeting they'll be signing the paperwork on that. $50,000 a year, paying that back. I could be more than offhand. But those will be paid back. We always said they would be paid back, and we're actually going to work on paying those back. As far as getting grants and stuff like that, I believe there's a grant out there, we should get it. But we have found a way to get those grants cheaper without having to pay somebody to write them. We have a place that actually will write them for us now at a very low cost. And these are the people who actually write them for everybody in the state. So I believe that's the best route to take as far as getting grants is going, is these people know where those grants are at. All we have to do is call them up, say, we need a grant for this, can you help us out? And they will locate them for us. And then write it, and they work with the state to try to get these for us. As far as our debts go, we need to work on getting those down. Everything is about the money, and we need to work our ways getting to it. But I think we can make it there. We're already headed that way. We just got to keep on the path and get there. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clark, you have 2 minutes.
Well, I just want to thank you again for this tonight. Thank the Chamber of Commerce for sponsoring this. Thank you for moderating and doing the questions. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the time that we have here to get our point across. You know, I think whoever is elected mayor is going to have a job at hand. I mean, regardless of what we plan to do or which way we plan to go. Of course, we all have ideas. We all have visions for what we want to see for the community. One thing I've thought in just thinking about the community in general, because I have been involved with it for quite some time, since its birth, I guess you would say, you know, is the fact that, you know, when we consolidated our schools back in 1966, we kind of pulled that all together. And then we gave us all something to kind of a vision of where we were going to go and where we were going to head with. You know, I don't know, looking back, I don't know now that we've done that necessarily to the best of our ability with the consolidated talent. And I think that's the key that we have going forward. We have got to get our community involved. We have got to get the citizens involved. And I'm amazed, just since I started this campaign, which is different than any other I've ever been on, is, with the use of social media. I'm amazed at the number of people that have reached out to me and say they want to be involved and they want to see good things happen here in Park Hills. And that's one thing we have to really work on. And I have a plan to do that with a series of town hall neighborhood meetings. The other day I was reading and I found a quote by Teddy Roosevelt, and I really thought it was kind of an inspiration, and I thought it was kind of fitting on maybe where we are as a community. And it says, do what you can with what you have where you are. And I think that's a good thing for us as a community to look forward. We've got debts, we've got problems, but we can still do what we can with what we have to make improvements. And if I'm elected, I'll do my best to see that through. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fishy, you have 2 minutes.
This city is going to be facing some serious budget shortfalls due to different things, the minimum wage, lack of income for different reasons, loss of sales tax, all kinds of, whatever the city gets the money, it's not enough. We need to grow from within. We need to do something to spark some building on these lots that are sitting vacant. If we take a class action lawsuit with FEMA, with other communities, to be able to get the rules changed, that we can get these lots back in production, we need to grow from the inside out. I personally have had a rental business for years. I know my way around a dollar. I know when a dollar is well spent, and I know when a dollar is wasted. I don't think we can afford that waste. And we need to do something to trim up and shore up what we've got. And we need to grow it. I feel that I'm kind of the new kid on the block. I don't see things the way a lot of people other do. I don't have the experience, but I'm not in an intellectual prison either. I see things from a different side and I work around it. Being a landlord, you have to be able to take what you have and work with it. And you have to come out on top or you lose everything you've got. It's sorry to say that's not an incentive, but it's a consequence. But I feel that I can do more to help the city than what I have been if I were in a different position. I've tried to do as much as I can, contribute to the city out of my pocket, and I want to show the people that a leader stands up and he does it himself. He doesn't require anyone else to follow him. He asks that they follow. I'm not afraid to do things, and I'm not afraid to ask someone else to do things. And I'm not about to ask somebody to do something I wouldn't do myself, which is put myself, my income, my family on the line to help the city.
Thank you. That concludes our forum for the evening. We want to say thank you to you 4 candidates for participating tonight and signing up to run for mayor. We appreciate that. We'd also like to thank the Park Hills-Leadington Chamber of Commerce for putting on this event, and Jason Lowry and his team from UniTec for the streaming and video work. And I think it's time, if you would, audience, please give these candidates a round of applause. So at this time, we will conclude. The candidates will still stick around for a little while to speak. To anyone who has any questions, if you'd like to speak to John Clark, come down here to the table, and we'll let you talk to John. Otherwise, have a good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here.